Let's talk audio August, shall we? Yes, I know I'm a little bit late with this video, but stuff was happening and also it took a little bit of time to find my TBR. But we're finally here and we are going to go through my little TBR for Audio August. Now, if you don't know what Audio August is, it is a readathon hosted by the lovely Livia over at Livia Crafts and Books. And this is, I think, the third time that she's hosted something like this, which is basically a readathon that focuses on audiobooks. And for someone who's recently changed jobs and is actually spending a lot of time carpooling, this is actually perfect. Two little caveats. First of all, I'm also doing the artist's way. And for the first week of August, we are in week 4, which means that we are in reading deprivation week, which means no reading and no listening to audiobooks and no TV and no nothing. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of catching up the second that week is actually over and done with. But I think we're gonna be fine because, as I mentioned, I am spending a lot of time in a car. Secondly, we are still in the 72-day readathon time period. And if you've watched my first vlog, I am sorry I left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger. But if you're a faithful watcher, I'm actually gonna tell you what I spun as the next board. So let's just now figure out which of the other 4 boards I'm going to be focusing on for the next 2 weeks. So again, as a little bit of a spoiler, you will be seeing some of these books again next week when we get to the second 72-day readathon vlog. So don't be surprised if you see some of these. And I will be very surprised if I actually end up finishing 1, hopefully 2, probably not, of these books by the time we finish it, because I will basically have half the time because of this reading deprivation week. So we're just gonna have to try our best and see where we get to. The fun part about this iteration of Audio August is that Livia actually provided us with a roadmap, which I think is pretty cool. I always love when there's a little bit extra going on. We still have the bingo board, but I feel like I want to actually follow the road trip and listen to the audiobooks in the order that they're in. I don't know how much that's going to actually be happening, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So we start out by just packing up our bags, getting ready, getting in the car. So Livia gave us a mood read to start with. And for that, I did choose All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. Now, I have read a book from Mariana Zapata, which is From Lukov with Love. And I really enjoyed that book. It is a romance. And the reason why I enjoyed it so much is because one of the things that I'm most annoyed about in romance books is the third act breakup. And From Lukov with Love actually doesn't have one. And I'm curious to see if Mariana Zapata makes a trend out of this in her books. So if there is no third act breakup, especially based on miscommunication, which I'm very much not a fan of, I think her books are gonna get bumped way higher up on my TBR list because I really do enjoy those types of books. So I'm very curious. This is my first novel that I'm gonna be reading where one of the main characters is actually a single dad. So we're gonna have to wait and see, but I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy it. The second prompt is we're driving, we're stopping at, I'm pretty sure is an actual scary cabin in the woods given the prompt, which is to read a thriller horror. And for this, I'm gonna actually be joining Livia and listen to The Silent Patient, which is a book that was actually recommended from Donna, who is hosting the 72-day readathon. So you see, it's all synergy. It's all correlating with each other. And I don't know how I'm feeling about the fact that we're going to be listening to this audiobook. I'm hoping there are not ambient sounds happening, because that's going to be a thing. This is basically a book that talks about a woman having murdered her husband and the psychiatrist who's basically obsessed with trying to solve what the hell happened. So, pretty light stuff, pretty easy subject matter. Luckily, afterwards, we are going to continue on our journey and pick a country that we want to go to, because the next prompt is to choose a book that is set in a different country. Now, I could have chosen a lot, but I chose Terms and Conditions, which is the second novel in the Dreamland Billionaire series. I have recently reread the first novel in this and enjoyed it. This will be an immersive read, just because I also really want to annotate these books. I really enjoyed this entire series. I do think this was my least favorite, though, of the three. But because it is my least favorite, I don't actually know if it's my least favorite because I don't remember much. And the fact that I don't remember much of it is why I think it is my least favorite. It is a marriage of convenience, which is also not my favorite kind of trope. But then there is also a grumpy sunshine thing going on, which is one of my favorite tropes. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what the hell is up with this one. Because the next thing that we're gonna have to do is get some gas. And because we have a lot of people going through gas stations, Livia gave us an LGBTQIA plus representation prompt for either the author and or characters. And for this, I know this has been on my TBR for months. Is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reid. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. You know what it's about. It's the series, the TV show, gay hockey. This is one I think I know the reason why it's been on my TBR for so long is because when I read the first book in the series, Game Changers, and we got the Scott and Kip storyline, I found myself waiting for certain story beats that I know were going to happen because of the show. And that kind of took some of the enjoyment out of it. Now, granted, I still really love the story of Scott and Kip, and I'm still going to love the story of Ilya and Shane, for sure. And the enjoyment that's going to be taken away from waiting for certain story beats is going to be very minimal, but it's something that I'm going to be looking out for. After having put the tank full of gas, we will be driving to the mountains and into nature. So the prompt is to read a book with an animal on the cover, for which I chose Bromantasy. I'm not gonna lie, I chose this book purely based on the cover. It looks like so much fun. It is a fantasy novel, fantasy romance, and it looks like it's also questy, and two male main characters falling in love during the quest. That is all I know. That is all I know, which to me, honestly, is more than enough. I like going into books blind, so I'm very curious to see what this book is actually going to be about, because it just looks like fun. I'm hoping that it will be. Now, I don't feel like a road trip, or just a trip in general, is complete without seeing some of the historical sites. So for the next prompt, we have a building on the cover. Now, go with me on this one. I chose Final Offer, which is the third novel and the final one in the Dreamland Billionaire series. Also my favorite, as I mentioned. So I'm very excited. Again, this is going to be an immersive read, so I can annotate it as well. Now, I know what you're thinking. There is no building on this cover. But you know where there is a building? On the cover for the audiobook. So since this is a challenge, a readathon that is mainly focused on the audiobooks, I feel like this is fine to choose this because, well, one, I want to, and second, I can't help it if there are multiple covers of the same book. But when it comes to the audio, there is an actual building on the cover. This is a second chance romance, and this actually deals with a single mom as well. And I'm just very excited to get to this. I know I'm going to enjoy my time. I actually cried the first time I read this. So I'm going to be very curious to see what's going to be happening in this iteration or this time when I read it. From all this driving around, we need to get gas once again and maybe get some snacks, get some stuff. So the next prompt is a BIPOC representation. Again, could be author, could be characters. But for this one, I decided to go with another romance. Why are there so many romances? Because they read fast and they listen fast. And there's a lot of prompts to finish in a month where one of those weeks in that month, I cannot read. So I decided to go with Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. Now, this one was floating around, I think, a couple of months or like a year ago. And it just sounds like it's going to be fun. So this is kind of a marriage of convenience in the fact that she needs to get engaged in a certain amount of time if she wants to get her mother's house. So I don't know how all of that is going to be going, but we're just going to find out together. Now, the next prompt, we need to go and get some drinks. We need to rehydrate. We've been on the road for a while. Is to get a book with a drink on the cover. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a really difficult time to actually find a book with a drink on the cover that also had an audiobook. But for this, I'm hoping that my library hold will come through, which is The Wedding People. And again, this was one of those books that was everywhere a couple of months, like a year ago. And again, no idea what it's about. I just know that people enjoyed it. I saw it in bookstores everywhere. There was a drink on the cover and there was an audiobook. And then once we finally get to our destination, our final prompt is to do a sea-themed book. And for this, I actually went with Beach Read by Emily Henry. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is also a reread, but I very much enjoyed my time with this novel the first time I read it. I just really want to listen to it. I think it's gonna be a really fun and happy time while I'm going to and from work and while I'm carpooling. So I'm really hoping that I'm gonna get to this one, but that would also mean finishing, 9 books in 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks. Yeah, no, I don't think that's happening. We can try. I will try. And if we don't, I will keep this book in mind to see if I can fit it in somewhere into the 72-day readathon, because I would like to revisit it. And like I mentioned, it sounds like a perfect story to listen to while I'm on my way to work or while I'm driving to and from work. And this is kind of friends to lovers, and no, it's enemies to lovers, actually. And it's about 2 authors who are kind of stuck in a rut and they have writer's block. And to try and get out of writer's block, they actually challenge each other to write a book in each other's genres. And romance ensues. But that is it. If we actually finish all of those, we will have finished our road trip. Again, if you want to join, it is not too late. Even though this video is going up late, it is not too late to join. I will leave all of the information about Audio August in the link in the description down below. There are also going to be a lot of people sprinting for Audio August, so keep an eye on that. You can keep an eye on all of it in the Discord, which also will be linked. But that is going to be it for this video. Again, thank you to Livia for asking me to co-host with Audio August. And do check out all of the other co-hosts in the description down below, because we're going to be sprinting and you're going to need to ring some bells. And you are going to be able to join this lovely group of people and maybe get to know some new people. So I hope you have fun. If you are joining, please let me know the books that you are going to be reading for this challenge and this readathon. Are you going to be doing the road trip, or are you just going to be going for the bingo board? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will talk to you guys again next week for another 72-day readathon vlog. See you then. Bye.